putting that content out there, still putting some ad spend behind it if you can. You're going to get more results now while we're all in lockdown still than what you will when everything starts to go towards this new normal that we talk about. Hello and welcome back to the InGear Media podcast. I'm joined once again with George, and we're going to be discussing a few different topics today for you. So first of all, a little bit of update around Spotify ads. Facebook have been extremely busy, so we're going to have a little bit of a look at what's going on with Facebook lately. Content tools that you can use for creation with content for your business and help to market it, and just a little bit of an update about the trends around COVID-19 and coronavirus and some of the stuff that we've seen as a marketing agency looking back on it. So George, then kicking off with Facebook, tell us a little bit about what they've been up to and some of the new things going on there.
Yeah, Facebook have been a bit busy recently, haven't they? So they've decided to combine all of their messaging services, well, in the future, to make them all seamless between them, whether it be ads or carrying on the conversations between Facebook Messenger, Instagram Direct, and WhatsApp. So everything's going to be a seamless experience, and of course that means for us in advertising, we can advertise to all of them at the same time and gather some good data from that. So that'll be quite exciting. They've also done the Facebook groups around COVID-19, haven't they? To make it much easier for families and everyone to integrate with each other, the voice calls, video chat.
There's a real race for that, wasn't there? So you've got like Zoom and Blue Jeans and Skype, obviously, and some of the big hitters that had video conferencing, and then Facebook, of course, put it into Messenger, like you say. So they were quite fast, really. If you think it didn't exist a few months ago as a feature, it's now in Instagram as well, just recently in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that's the same with every brand, isn't it, really? Even Google have made all of their services free. So with Discord made all of their services free for the time being, at least.
True. So one of the things then with the Messenger combination, I mean, that by putting Facebook Messenger, Instagram and WhatsApp and linking them all together, that's going to put 2.6 billion users in one kind of pot as such, that they can then show ads to, link ads to. So you could get somebody to see something in Facebook and then it takes them to an Instagram page or vice versa. And I'm sure, like you say, WhatsApp ads down the way a little bit as well. I think what's interesting around that is for Gen Z, they tend to communicate quite a lot in DM and PM, so they don't tend to message their friends quite so much on the actual public post. It's all the sort of private messaging. So opening up WhatsApp a little bit to ads in the near future will be interesting to see how that helps targeting them.
Yeah, I think
you're
that's
a Gen Zer. How do you feel about that?
That's quite a huge thing, really, because recently we've seen such a big move to dark social, and ads have been much harder to target, especially the younger audiences, because they're just less effective unless it's viral content. I think moving ads, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to have ads everywhere, but I think it's probably necessary to actually move these ads into a different place. I think we've not really seen it that much in the past. I think LinkedIn, with their messaging services, have quite a lot of ads on them. And I guess there is also ads on Facebook Messenger, but not so much on Instagram and WhatsApp. So I'll be interested to see what this actually looks like when the ads are there and how they gather the data and stuff.
Because even that's a good point. Even Instagram DM doesn't have an ad structure. That's a good point. So, and again, they'll then be able to start doing that just like LinkedIn, InMail, and those sorts of things. That's a good point too. Cool. So they've set up this sort of new initiative to combine the messengers. Like you say, they've got groups now, and you can have video group chats. They've also, I've seen, been looking on making their own email marketing service built right into the Facebook platform as well. So Facebook are kind of entering that email fray place, but from what I've seen, it's very much aimed at smaller, medium-sized businesses. So the tools are a bit more basic than what you might see in, your active mail campaigns, your MailChimps, those sort of bigger known tools. But yeah, certainly that'll be interesting for the small business owner out there to be able to kind of get involved with email marketing a little bit easier, just straight from the tools they use to run their Facebook page. So they've been quite busy with all of that. And then the other thing that we've seen a bit more success with, or becoming more popular, or I know I've certainly seen it on my feed, and maybe see what you think as well, but the Facebook lead ads, where a user can actually click on a Facebook ad and then fill in a form and sign up there and then on the Facebook platform without having to go out to a landing page. Because of course, typically you build an ad, that goes to a landing page. From that landing page, it's optimized to convert them to then sign up, give their email, buy the product, whatever it might be. And then beyond that, you capture the email and you can remarket to them later as well. But
Yeah.
it just skips out that whole process and cost of making a landing page, which is quite cool. And I don't think it works for everything, but I mean, what do you think of that format?
Yeah, I think it's effective in certain things. I think it's hard to do when there's a lot of information you need to give to someone before they actually purchase or consider buying something. I think if it's a simple product that they just sign up or sign up to find more with an email, I think that's when it's most effective. I've seen there's also integrated landing pages kind of in like Facebook as well that you can build using the ads manager. So you can build a
Okay.
kind of smaller landing page that has a little bit of info and then obviously the sign up form that you said
Hmm.
or anything else that you can add. But yeah, I don't know if it will be that useful for everyone, but I think it definitely has a lot of benefits to it.
For certain things, I mean, I would say I don't always use it when I see it. Sometimes it was putting me off for a while, but actually, I've signed up to like the odd ebook download or something like that, just from a Facebook lead form. So, I mean, clearly the fact that they've done it and it's still here a few months on is, or however long it's been going, it's worth doing for them. But yeah, so that's just like a small snippet of some of the stuff Facebook's been up to. That it just shows how quickly they're still, moving forward and driving change forward. And of course, they own Instagram, they own WhatsApp. Two very, very good moves for Zuckerberg there when he did that, because they're just continuing to grow
Yeah, they're huge.
all the time. So yeah, that's just a bit of an update on that for you. And then Spotify, not something you typically think of talking about in marketing, but actually there is such a thing as Spotify ads, and if anyone that's a free user of the platform will know and hear them regularly. But that is only just one form of that. But yeah, I mean, tell us a bit about what you've seen on that as well first, and then I'll chip back in.
Yeah, I've seen that Spotify ads are really, really uh, going crazy, aren't they, really, at the moment? They've had an 11% increase in the actual app itself in stores. So assuming that new users, obviously they won't be premium straight away, I'm guessing there's been a massive spike in actual people listening to Spotify ads.
Hmm.
I've seen that Spotify also offer a service where you can essentially, as a smaller business, send in your script, as it were, and they will voice over and make it into an audio ad, which is obviously quite a challenge for a smaller business to, without outsourcing it, to figure out how to actually do an audio ad. So that's
Yeah,
quite cool. That's a
it's a
good thing that
really
they're
interesting
doing.
idea, isn't it?
Mm.
Really, really cool. So it's like a one-stop shop. They have the studio, the voiceover artists, they just do it all for you.
Yeah, which is a great idea. Makes everything go through Spotify, don't you?
Yeah. So yeah, it's like you say, they've had an increase in people using the app. And from a marketing point of view, another juicy number to know is that they generate 100 billion data points every single day, is one of the things that they boast about what people are doing, what they listen to, and of course the data they have about those people. So it actually means that targeting can be very specific, which of course is always helpful as well. And they can geo-target different regions down to from 2,000 to 180,000 listeners in like one little bubble. So again, local is possible, just like you could do with Facebook. So the capability of Spotify ads is actually a lot more advanced than probably a lot of people realize. But that's just the actual Spotify ad itself, like George was saying, where they make it for you and they can put it in. You can obviously make your own as well. But then the other successful thing that works for a lot of people is pre-roll ads on podcasts. And Spotify have even been working hard on that in a way, because they've been busy signing up big names for their podcasts, haven't they? So
They have, yeah.
Joe Rogan is one of the biggest podcast hosts going in the world, 190 million monthly subscribers, and Spotify have now signed him exclusively.
Yeah.
So I've not actually listened to his stuff, but I know you have. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm quite shocked by that. really, because I know he has a very big YouTube presence. I think he's got over, I think 1,200 episodes or so, and they're all about 2 hours long. And then he also has all of the highlight clips from that. So I'd be interested to see what actually happens with that. Like, does he get rights to the video content, like, I don't know, a year later or something? Or will his YouTube pages stop? Because I know there's a lot of fans on there. And obviously, if you're not a premium member on Spotify, then you're going to have to listen to a lot of ads while you're listening to him. But then I
Yeah, that's
guess
true.
it's
Which
a
you would
very
on
big
YouTube
win.
if you didn't use ad block.
Ah, you've got me out. But yeah,
You Gen Zers, it's a game, isn't it? Dodging ads is a
dodging
game.
ads, it is good
Young
fun.
generation. Fast forward adverts if there are any on TV. Not that you even watch TV. Ad block on YouTube. All that stuff.
One thing
Um,
before we move on with the Spotify is
hmm,
with the data points that they do gather, they was voted the most intimate brand in 2020. Obviously, I think everyone knows with the at the end of the year you post your most listened to songs and your favorite genre, your favorite artists. It's like a big thing, isn't it? Your 2020 Spotify rewind. So I think that's one of the ways that they really engage with their customers. I think that's so important, especially now.
yeah, that's a really good point. We talk a lot about brand. We've done other podcasts where we hammer on about brand in detail, and it's just another example of it. It's a really, really good point, actually. Um, okay, so we go from Spotify and keeping it moving. Then one of the questions that we get all the time is, how do I make good content? How do I know what to make? Even just that decision of someone thinking, what content should I make for my business? There's a couple tools out there that you can use. So one of the more well known ones is called BuzzSumo, and that's BuzzSumo, and they've got a free version which is a bit more limited and a paid version where you can essentially search topics and then find trending content in those topics. You can basically see what the best performing content is in your industry, and then go and make your own version or a similar version that matches your company and brand. But then you've also got also ask, answer the public, where you can type in a question as such or an industry, and then it will show you the most common searched questions around that. So good thing with that is, of course, that's literally what customers are searching, so you can help answer their questions directly. So answer the public, very, very good tool for that. I found it doesn't always work with every industry. Sometimes I find it's like pulling teeth to get a decent result out of the results, but for broader industries, it's really good at helping you then narrow down to more specific areas. And
Yeah,
then,
I think you struggle with it doing very, very specific
yeah,
with those tools. But yeah,
yeah, but it does definitely help put you in the right direction. And then I've not used them, but number two that come up was Exploding Topics and Squibbler. Don't know if you've ever used those at all.
that's quite an interesting idea, isn't it? Just keep writing and or it will delete your content. So it forces
Oh
you to
yeah,
keep
that's
up.
it. Yeah, have
Yes.
you used it?
No, I've heard of it though. I
Yeah,
think it's especially for if you're writing, I don't know, a blog or something, and you want to just kind of spit ideas onto a page. You're forced to keep going, otherwise it
it
gets
deletes.
deleted. Yeah.
It's a weird
It's a
concept.
bit of a weird
We have
concept.
enough trouble with that with not saving our After Effects and Premiere profiles and Photoshop.
Corrupted files and oh god.
We don't need something else deleting our work. But yeah. So that's not actually to find topics. That's to make sure you keep writing your own ideas down. So that's a slightly different one, Scribbler. But yeah, a different idea as well. So many different tools out there. Cool. And then apart from a little bit of a sort of coronavirus update at the end, I just thought we'd also, just off the back of the content creation question. But actually, I think let's go a little bit deep, because we've got a lot of experience, of course, creating content. When it comes to making content for a brand, what sort of stuff? If somebody said to you, what should I make for my business in terms of content that's going to work and resonate? What would you say to that?
I would say obviously it's very dependent on what your brand or your company is doing in what specific content you make. But I think generally just make content that people will engage with, content that helps your audience, whether it be big, just general tips, whether it be
Helps. That's good.
yeah, it helps blogs, videos, tips, whatever, and just listen to what your audience want and listen to what your audience need. I guess find that in between of not overly helping them so that you lose your own business, but help them enough so that they're interested and they trust you as a brand. So building your brand through trust and loyalty and just listening to your customers, I guess.
And I think the key is you're not saying sales content all the time, because that's the thing where a lot of people go wrong. It's not about putting your advert out there all the time or making everything something that is going to get people to click and sign up to your product or service or buy it. It's adding value, isn't it? So like you said, you said helping people. I kind of refine it to add value, and if you add value to what people are doing, or your service or what you're offering, it's always going to help. So another tip I have is to think about what the most frequently asked questions that you get are as a brand. If someone's wondering what to post, you can create content around that. So if you're always getting asked how to set up this part of your product or service, maybe do some tutorial videos or some product demos where you're showing how to do that particular thing, and it'll help a lot of people and help your existing customers as well then in that case, which is always a good thing to do and sometimes easily forgotten. So there's a number of stuff like that you can do if you start thinking about frequently asked questions that people might have. But yeah, always adding value the whole time. Cool. Now then, just to sort of think about it a slightly different way, when we talk about social media marketing and content marketing, it's very easy to kind of fall into that trap of just putting salesy posts out all the time as a brand. And there's actually a couple of different categories of using social media marketing. So again, I guess so that I'm not chatting away the whole time, do you want to take us through the sort of 4 key aspects of social media marketing, and then we'll just kind of spit ideas around back and forth.
Spitting them, yeah, sure. So the 4 main ones are obviously social listening, which is what I kind of touched on there. It is just making sure you keep an eye on what your customers are saying and then responding to them, and basically upholding your reputation as a brand and keeping that brand loyalty by helping them if they have any issues, or making sure that there's nothing that they don't know. If you have a product it's hard to use or whatever, you make a tutorial like Mackenzie said.
So I could do that by looking up hashtags to do with my business, or if you're a car manufacturer, of course, could just type their some Mercedes or BMW, could start searching BMW and look at what people are saying. And if billions of people around the world are saying they hate the new steering wheel, they could then think about how they change that. Very big example there, but that works locally as well, of course. It depends.
I think it's important to actually keep an eye on your competition as well in that sense. Not necessarily copy, but take notes.
Yeah,
make sure they don't win.
Think about what to post, can't it? Because you've actually seen, if people are saying, I don't know why I always go to jam when we talk about this, right? But
you like jam.
I don't even really have jam. I don't have jam in the house. But if I am looking on social media and I'm going #jam, and people are going, there's really not enough varieties of jam. Why can't I find a blackcurrant and passion fruit jam? I'd love to try that. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? If people are searching and typing these posts around these topics, you go, oh, okay, actually that's an idea for a new flavour to my jam business that I don't have. That I can then post. You see where I'm going? I'm listening to the audience to then help think about what content I put out there and how it shapes what my product and services are.
Yeah.
Do you want to buy some jam?
I do. I'm intrigued.
Cool. So that's social listening. What else have you got?
We've got social influencing. just thinking
jam?
of jam now. I don't just jam everywhere. Yeah. So that's basically just sharing nice content. Mm-hmm. And there's also obviously social influencer marketing, which I guess comes under there, in that giving your content, or if you have a product or whatever, you give your contact to a person or a brand that has authority over your potential target audience, so that they essentially seem like someone higher up that's telling them, just like you would recommend or trust a friend's recommendation. It's the same kind of thing where you trust someone that you look up to or like they engage with their content
Yeah.
because they are an influencer of you.
And I always think of this or explain this as the popular kid at school, or the popular kid at school that everyone looks up to. If you want to sell a product to teenagers, then imagine getting the most popular kid at school that everyone loves or and whatever to go around using that product and promoting it. Quite quickly, the rest of the school's going to want that new bag or whatever it might be that they're walking around. So it's a similar sort of concept if you think of it like that. And by getting on board with these influencers and using them, it can help expand your reach, like George says. So that's social influencing. All right, so I'll move on then. Another one is social networking, which is kind of similar in a way because it involves dealing with other people on social media. But social networking is, it's really in the name each time. But social networking is using the internet to be social and actually engage with other people and talk to them and meet them and make connections. So think Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, obviously talking to people in comments of pages and so on. And being open to making these new connections. So often people just go on, from a business point of view, post their content and off they go again. And there's none of this.
I think that's a big downfall of a lot of brands, is that they don't they're not sitting on the hashtags of their brand or whatever and replying or interacting with their customers or people that might be interested, and they're just kind of letting the opportunity pass by not doing it. Even a simple like of a comment on your page, I think, makes you at least feel valued as a customer, or giving good feedback and saying thanks is quite important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think LinkedIn is the best place for this right now, but it's absolutely happening in other platforms as well. So if somebody comments on your picture, say thank you, ask them a question. If you sell wine, go onto Twitter and look up people that are talking about wine and comment back to them and see what their favorite wine is, or ask if they've tried the type of wine that you offer. It's so simple to actually just sit there and do that, and it's so important. And yeah, it can take a couple of hours to sit there and go through all the posts and comment back to them. But I think that is modern business. That's what you've got to do.
Yeah,
you've got to be at the
and
forefront.
then just think about just the added reach that your post then has. If there's underneath 100 other people's comments and they're responding and everyone's engaging, then your brand is then part of their lives, and they'll remember you if they need wine or jam.
Or jam.
Or
jam, yeah. Very fruity based businesses. And then we also then have to mention social selling. So that is the one that really people are doing more often, or we see more often from businesses and brands. So the posts that are designed to generate leads, sign up for our ebook, go read our blog. That's a social selling type post, and to try and sell either to new prospects or existing customers. So I don't really need to go into that one in any more detail than that, but
apart from people do it way too much.
Yeah, exactly. So be social on social media, basically. Talk to others, think about what others want, listen to what they're saying, and then make content that adds value to that point that they're making or question that they're asking. So, okay, right. So in the interest of keeping things short and sweet, because I know it's more than me that's guilty of rambling away when we do this sort of thing. A little bit of an update on, of course, the ongoing situation with COVID-19, what trends we've noticed. So I've got some data that I'll go to in a minute, just based off a Google AdWords campaign that I've been involved with. But George, just generally, like what sort of stuff have you noticed, or insight can you give from all the data that we collect and see?
I think in general, we've seen a big spike in engagement across all of our pages because there is obviously more people online at the moment. I think different types of content does much better at the moment. I think more laid back or behind the scenes, or kind of just mellow content. There you go. It does much better at the moment than more salesy in your face content. I think people are very sick of that, and I think people are also very sick of everyone telling them that they're in lockdown, because I think they might have realised. And I think in terms of the actual data, we've seen a big shift in the times that people are online, especially on Instagram. In the week that used to peak around midday, but now it's peaking around 9 p.m. on every weekday, and a bit earlier at 6 p.m. on the weekends, which is something to really consider when you're posting to your pages at the minute, is just to shift your content back a little bit, because people aren't active as much in the day, which is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, it's
And
weird,
we
isn't
actually
it?
seen
So
the opposite
now they're
happening
not
on
at
Facebook.
work. Now they're not at work. They're actually not on social media as much in the day.
On Facebook, we've actually seen kind of the opposite thing to Instagram, in that we've seen everyone shift more to the day. It's more like Facebook is your daily task, like work, and then you close it off at night, and then you go on Instagram. It's quite weird.
One of Zuck's platforms to another. He's still happy. Yeah, so I was going to say the Facebook one. I remember seeing some data of one of our clients like peaking at 3 a.m. some days. Like, it's just so interesting, and it just gives you an insight again on the sort of stuff you need to be on top of to get the most out of your posts. The time of day is important, so yeah, keep on top of those trends. So just then quickly, I mentioned some data that I had. So during this time, a lot of companies understandably have pulled a lot of their budget from advertising. We all know marketing is one of the first things that gets hit when it comes to people trying to save money. But all the research that I've seen and data points towards the fact that any money that you chop now is going to probably cost twice as much to rebuild what you've lost out on in the future. You know, you're kind of saving money here, but then you have to work twice as hard over here when you do start spending again to get back to where you was. And the clients of ours that have still been going are actually getting way more bang for their buck, because for anyone that doesn't know, I mean, the way Facebook and Instagram and all these social networks work, even just generally, but also from an advertising point of view, is that there's only one feed. You've only got one feed to compete for attention. Now, the less people that are posting into that feed, the easier it is for you to get into that feed in front of your customers, who we've already established are online more and are online at different times than normal. So by putting your message out at the right time when people are online and still sticking with it during this difficult time as best you can, you're going to get more exposure than what you would have before with less effort. But like I say, I've got some actual data. So one of our clients, they have a Google ad spend. It's somewhere around £500-600 a month. It fluctuates, but it's enough that you can generate a decent bit of data from it. So on the cost per click point of view, I ran a report, just a very straightforward report, to see what the cost per click was from the same time last year, 3-month period, to now. So basically from January to May, and we're just now into June at the time of filming this podcast. But long story short, by about the beginning of April, and we'll put the chart up on the screen, so you should be able to see it now. By about April, you'll see it just drops straight off in terms of last year. So the solid line represents the cost from this year, and the dashed line is the cost from last year. So all of a sudden, come April, it gets much cheaper. It goes from just under 60p down to 20p. So it's almost 2/3 less cost per click than what it was before. And that's because it's, like I say, it's like an auction. Less people are bidding because less people are spending. So therefore you get more for your money and the price goes down. So this particular client actually still did reduce their budget, but we were still getting a very good level of clicks because the cost per click dropped so much. So from 60p down to 20p was quite a big result. And then if I go on to, I've got another report, cost per mille, or cost per 1,000 impressions is what CPM is in this case. You do sometimes talk about cost per metric, but yeah, I mean cost per mille in this particular case. So per 1,000 views, the cost was at its highest £24 last year, and almost to the day, when it peaked at its highest last year at £24, it's gone down to literally just on the £6 mark this year. And in fact, just under that at times a little bit before. So it's a huge reduction.
That's £14, which is massive.
£14 per 1,000 impressions. It's just nuts.
Change.
So when we say it's important to still press on with your marketing if you can, and still put content out there if you can, you know, it's so important to do so. If it was me, I'd be using this time to talk about the story of why I started my business, why I think my product is better than anyone else's, why my jam is so good. Since we're talking about
very good jam.
It's a very good jam that I've not invented yet, but it's really good.
It's really good.
Comes from an old recipe from a great grandparent, and
could send that jam out to a lot of jam influencers out there.
But you see the point. It's so important that we're talking about what we do and why we do it. Why we do it is always so important. So putting that content out there, still putting some ad spend behind it if you can. You're going to get more results now while we're all in lockdown still than what you will when everything starts to go towards this new normal that we talk about.
Yeah.
So we're kind of heading, you know, back that way now. Things are starting to creep back. People are going back to work more, and you see more people going back to work, but still there's more people online and there's still less people spending, and the big brands won't react for a little while yet. So we can absolutely, you know, make the most of that opportunity right now as the smaller and medium-sized businesses. So there you go. Rant over. Anything for you to add?
No, that's all. It's all very good, very exciting.
That's all, folks. Okay, all right. Well, that's it for our podcast this week. We'll try and do these more regularly. What I would love, please, anyone that watches this, is give us some questions and topics that you'd like to see discussed in and around marketing, web design, social media, email marketing, whatever, all the topics we kind of work in. Send us your questions, send us your topics, and we can then help shape the podcast and answer the stuff that you want to hear about. So thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.